是构筑项目合伙人 Scott Hedges， 他是今天所关注的，讲的是关于预制建筑系统在瑞典的主题。有请。
Okay, hello. Thank you for welcoming me to China. I came here today to speak to you about prefabrication systems in Sweden. Before I start, I'll say a few words about myself. I am not as tall as Yao Ming. This is Yao Ming. Me, not as tall. But I am taller than Bruce Lee. So. I have lived in Sweden, and for those of you who don't know, Sweden is where IKEA is located. Sweden is the lowest density country in Europe, and it is a population of 9 million, so it is the size of this convention center. Before I tell you about prefabrication, I want to say a few words about the history of building in Sweden. It's very important to understand where things have come from. Sweden is building wooden houses. They have always built houses out of wood. The house is completely built out of wood. The whole house is built out of logs. This is a traditional Swedish house. And that is what it looks like. Log building is a practice of building which was transferred to America by the Swedish immigrants. And today, in the early days in America, log buildings were very common. This building is in Pennsylvania. But later, as America became an industrialized country, they developed a new way of building houses. We call this light wood framing or stud framing in English. And this is the most common way that houses are built today in America. It's the most common way that houses are built in Canada. And it is something that is happening now a little bit in China. Most building in China is brick and concrete, but there is strong effort to produce wooden houses in China. These houses are built in cooperation with Canada, outside of Shanghai. These are luxury homes that are being built. So China is building with wood the way Americans and Canadians have been building. But as I'm going to show you, the typical way that building is done in Sweden is different than the way that is being done in China now and the way that's being done in America. The main difference is that there is a very high level of prefabrication and industrialization in the construction in Sweden. And to show you this, I'm going to just show you a short film of a Swedish house being built. This film I'm going to show is a normal way that a house is built. This is done every day in Sweden. This is not anything special. The industry in Sweden that I'm going to show you started in the 1920s by delivering pieces of the buildings from the sawmills. They have been developing this for 30, 40 years, and they have modernized it into a manufacturing industry that is fairly distinctive to their building tradition. So today, houses come looking like this, and are installed much differently than they are in the rest of the world. So here is what this looks like. Now, the walls have just been delivered. All of the walls have come on trucks, and they've been put here, and now we're going to watch the building be put up. This is a coffee break. Now they're putting on the second floor. The second level of the house is being put on. And there they have installed the roof. And that is the end of day. 4 men, 1 house, 1 day. All finished on the outside. So that is the basic approach for factory building today in Sweden. This is the normal way it's done. Now I'm going to show you some details of what this looks like. These walls are finished on the outside and on the inside. The windows are installed. The insulation, the thermal insulation, is in the walls, and the paths for the wires are in the walls. The building is delivered as elements, big pieces of building. These are the floor elements. Here they are being fit. The places where they pick up the elements are already installed in the factory. That's very important. It is very easy for them to make the house level. They have systems to do this. Most of the work inside the house is going to be done on site. You can see though that they have already put the materials in the building. So nothing else will really come in the building. It's already put in the building. And here they're bringing the roof over that has been built. They're building another roof here for the next house. This is a very efficient use of labor. So at the end of the day, the house is closed in and weather tight. There is still much more work to be done on this house. About 72% of the total hours of work that are done are still on site. But that's because the work that's done off-site at the factory is so fast and efficient. So there's about 500 hours of work, of labor, to build that house and put it on the truck. Now I'm going to show you in more detail the way the factories look. What does it look like inside a Swedish factory? This is a schematic diagram of a Swedish panel production line. This is a basic, you can do this different ways, but this is the basic idea. And the important thing that I want to show you is that they are working while the wall is flat. Most building occurs while the wall is vertical. And in Sweden, almost all of the assembly process, the wall is moving flat. This is a big contrast from the normal way that building happens, where everything has to be put up. Gravity is the enemy here. So these workers can work at a level that is comfortable for them to work. It is not necessarily about robots and high-tech equipment. A lot of it is simply getting the work at a good level to make it efficient. Some factories do have robots, but the main thing that they do in Sweden that you don't see is that they turn the wall over. This flipping allows them to work on one side and then work on the other side. So everything happens from the top down. They turn it over. I'm going to show you another example of redesigning the building process by using factory production in Sweden. This arrow is showing how to install a window. This window is installed in Sweden. This is a window installed in America. This is exactly the way it is done on a building site. You pick up the window, you put it in, and you nail it off. This is being done in a more industrialized way with a proper jig, and one man can do much more work this way. This black gasket is like an automotive gasket that seals the window so the air does not go around the outside of the window. All this work happens, there's no bending over. He doesn't have to lift anything. The windows then become a sub-assembly, and they are taken to the wall production line, where they are installed before the wall is even built. So this is a change in the production process. And this is the kind of thinking that increases efficiency in industrial house production. So you're not building indoors, you're producing in an industrial way. But in most countries, including the USA, we cut the hole after the wall is built. Then we install the window. This is normal. I'm going to take a closer look at the way they're building roofs in Sweden. Again, this is not about big industrial equipment, it's not about robots, it is about efficiency. Roofs are complicated, they have a lot of angles. These men are building roof trusses in Sweden. There are no robots, but they have lasers to position all the pieces. So the computer is still guiding this process, but the workers are not using anything but their hands to work. This is a movable press which joins the pieces of the trusses. And what you see here is the production. Every piece is different on this system. They can move these pieces around to make a different system. It's very inexpensive, it's very efficient. So these factories are very clean, they're self-supervised teams, and they're very efficient use of labor. Today in Sweden, approximately 15% of the houses of the higher apartment buildings are built using these same processes, only delivering them as volumes. And what I want to point out, this is a schematic of a volume factory, a modular factory. But this part here, this is the same wall production line. So they're building the walls exactly the same way, and then building these volumes. And this is a bigger output system in Sweden. But these walls are also used where you have concrete floors, just like in China, where you have decks, columns, but then the walls are installed outside, the whole wall, window, insulation, wiring chase. It's very common. So this is a good example that China should study when they look at how they are going to get government, academics, and industry to work together. They have come up with a highly competitive, customer-focused industry, and they are exporting buildings, which I gather is also a priority here, or an interest here. So thank you for your time.
Thank you。那么接下来呢，有请来自新西兰 Interprefab